let's talk about ESG and this new report from the IPMC ESG Ratings report for 2025. We're going to be talking about the importance of ESG. You guys know what ESG stands for. We're going to be defining in just a minute. Everybody should know. I won't say what it is. The CFA Institute has talked about the importance of ESG and particularly ratings. So scoring companies on their environmental, social, and governance performance is increasingly common investment practice. How does the practice work? Why is it so important now? And what issues does it raise? Abimbola Gbenjo is the ESG Business Manager at IPMC. He joins us now. Abimbola, it's good to see you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Happy New Year. Let's get into our conversation. So yeah, I deliberately didn't want to define what ESG is. So what is ESG and how does it differ from CSR, which is corporate social responsibility?
So thank you very much for having us. So ESG stands for Environmental, Social, and Governance Frameworks.
Yeah.
So it essentially looks at how businesses are managing the risk and opportunities across the environmental sector, across social, and across governance. It's different from CSR because CSR is more philanthropic, CSR is not comparable, and CSR isn't data-backed. So we like to say that CSR is social benefits, but ESG is how do you run your business? Is it sustainable? So that's the difference.
Now talk to us about that quote you just saw from the CFA Institute, the importance of ESG ratings. Why are they important? Why is it important to rate companies on ESG?
Thank you for that question. So the importance of ESG ratings is the transparency, and also it gives leverage to the companies that are performing well and the companies that are not performing well.
Yeah.
Why is it important to rate? Anybody can come up with a quote and say they are doing this, that.
Yeah.
But you actually need someone to say, this is what you've done verifiably, and to also provide comparable data across companies, where investors, where regulators, where market actors can look at the data and objectively make decisions.
Great. Now, talk to us about your reports, because that's the Nigeria Companies ESG Ratings Report for 2025. Apparently, you do this annually. And you've looked at ESG compliance among different firms. So talk about the report and what separates an ESG compliant firm from another.
So thank you. The IPMC ESG Ratings Report for 2025 covers 121 listed companies across 5 sectors: telecommunications, oil and gas, manufacturing, financial service, and also the service sector. So we've looked at all the listed companies in these sectors. We covered over 21,000 data points across these sectors, and also in the breakdown of the ESG framework to see what is material to each sector and what is not material to each sector, and also to benchmark their performances.
Okay.
So we've done that. That's what is in the 2025 report.
So now, as far as the sectors that they play in, right? I know Zenith Bank topped the banking side. I think Dangote Sugar topped manufacturing or so. So for a bank versus a player in manufacturing, does the sector have an impact on how ESG compliant the company is? Can you talk about that between the sectors?
Yes. Yes, the sectors play a role, but not in the way people think.
Okay.
So one of the key things in ESG is looking at materiality.
Yeah.
For each sector, there's a different materiality. You talked about the manufacturing and oil and gas. For manufacturing and oil and gas, there's a higher materiality for environment because a lot of the business activities involve the environment.
Yeah.
But if you look at the banking sector, there's a higher materiality for governance, stability, ethics. So the materiality of each part of ESG differs across sectors, but still compliance is what we are trying to push across different sectors.
How can technology make an impact in ESG? How does that play a role? Is it being able to assess data or being able to tell a company how it's doing? How does tech play a role in ESG?
So technology plays a very, very important part. And we are gradually seeing that technology is assisting companies to be more ESG compliant. If you look at it this way, you want to gather data about your emissions, or you want to gather data about your social activities, technology can help you scale the data collection, the data reporting, and also your disclosures. And it's also gradually important for us to, as ratings company, to use technology to compare these companies and also use different systems to measure what they're doing. So technology is important for ESG compliance. And in 2026, we expect that more companies will use technology to advance their ESG compliance.
So the E is for environment, for example, right?
Yes.
And you just talked about oil and gas companies, and we cover a lot on this show. In fact, the Arise News channel, flaring
oil and gas.
Oil and gas, right? So I can imagine it's a little harder for oil and gas. Maybe, I don't know, you're the one that puts the data together. Could be harder for oil and gas companies on the environmental side, but the realities of Nigeria today, I want to ask you about that and how that could impact ratings, because we have volatile electricity, erratic electricity supply. So a number of these companies, from the banks to the manufacturers and so on, they're running diesel generators, and those generators they impact the environment. So do you factor that in, when you're going to be ranking these different companies when it comes to the environmental side?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
And I'm happy you mentioned some of the challenges businesses in Nigeria face, and that is the reality of Nigeria. But when we talk about ESG ratings, we are not talking about perfection.
Yeah.
We are talking about acknowledging those risks and also acknowledging the opportunities that are in that sector. We'll take one point you've raised with diesel and emissions. If a company realizes that it's running on diesel and discloses how much emissions it does and its plan to cut down on the emissions, and you can see it's a trend today that a lot of companies are switching to renewable energy.
Right.
So if you can show that in a data-backed way, it shows that you're imputing ESG into your strategy. So that makes your business more sustainable. And in the long run, a lot of people have done comparisons of how, your costs come down when you use things like renewable energy. So acknowledging these risks and showing a pathway of how you're going to develop is what ESG looks at. Your disclosures, are they data-backed? Are you showing an upward trend? So those are the things we are looking at. We are not necessarily asking for perfection or setting a high bar.
Yeah.
But are you acknowledging these things, and how are you moving forward?
All right, we're going to wrap up, but what's the takeaway from your report? I know you say you do this annually for this 2025. Now, what can we say about ESG compliance, or what companies across different sectors are doing in Nigeria? Is it an encouraging report? Who's the audience? What's the report saying?
So our reports, the audience for our reports are regulators, are DFIs, are international investors, and also the companies that we are rating. From our 2025 reports, we are saying that 30% of the companies that are doing well are raising funds easily. I won't want to mention names, but some of the banks in the top tier, you will see those are the banks that were easily recapitalized with the new.
Right.
And also, if you look at some of the laggards, those are those who are getting their licenses withdrawn.
Right.
So you can see that those who are performing well on ESG ratings are also performing well on the financial side and are more sustainable. For us, we want to provide data to the international community. You read a quote by CFA on how important it is for international investors to use ESG ratings. In Africa, in Nigeria, I'm proud to say that we are the pioneer ESG rating service in Nigeria.
Okay.
So we're giving international investors the signals of which companies are compliant and which companies are not.
How do you think things are going to be in 2026? I think there'll be more compliance, or is there a way to forecast how things could be, or it's not easy, you just have to go in and do the reports itself?
So we're working with a lot of companies in the financial sector and also some DFIs, and we're seeing the increased appetite for green financing.
Yeah.
So we expect a lot more companies to be ESG compliant.
Great stuff. Very informative. Abimbola Gbenjo, ESG Business Manager at IPMC. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. It's an important topic and something that
so much for having us.
Pay attention to. Thank you so much.